No.
Okay, hello, welcome to the JI Intergovernmental Council meeting.
Spring days, summertime. I know a few folks are out of town, but thank you for joining us. Mayor, will you bring something to the prayer?
Lord, please guide us and help us to always be mindful of the needs of all the people of our community and especially James Island. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, everyone. If we can do a quick round of introductions again, I think that may be helpful for the public and for everyone. Carolina Carter, City of Charleston, Councilwoman.
And I'm Carol. Bill Woolsey, Mayor, County of James Island.
Tom Hartman, State House Representative, District 110. Dave Schaefer, JIPSD.
Kathy Woolsey, Chairman, Commissioner of the James Island Public Service.
Brenda Grant, Commissioner, Vice Chair of the James Island Public Service District Commission.
Commissioner.
Marilyn Clifford, James Island Public Service District Commissioner.
Carol Temple, District 9, Charleston County School Board.
Eric Milliken, council person for County of James Island.
Ronald Matson, Commissioner, James Island PSC Secretary.
John Deckenberg, Mayor of Charleston.
All right, thank you all so much for being here. The approval of the April 26th, 2023 minutes. I don't think I forwarded them out, but okay to approve. I haven't seen, you haven't seen them. Do you want to defer them until the October meeting? Our meeting. That hearing. All in favor? Now our public comment session, thank you. Public comment, it is limited to 2 minutes. I know in the past, I know this is a very informal meeting and it's James Island, so in the past, we've had a little Q&A, but we do try to keep it to just a comment, and then I think questions, just to keep the meeting moving, and then you can ask questions after the meeting. If that's okay, the public is open. So I have George Temple signed up.
I inadvertently signed thinking that it was the sign-in sheet. However, I'd like to say that how encouraged I am to see us all working together for this great area. Thank you.
Would anyone else here from the public, even if you haven't signed up, like to be heard?
Chair Parker, I would like to add that we have Councilwoman Jenny Honeycutt and Councilman Ross Appel via Zoom.
Oh, okay. Did everyone hear? So we have Councilwoman Ross Appel from the City of Charleston is online, and Councilwoman Jenny Honeycutt from the county is online too.
Thank you. Thanks, y'all. Happy to be here.
Hi, Jenny and Ross.
How are y'all?
Good. Good. Anyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I think that's something to say.
Well, that's it. This is like.
Yeah.
Sure.
Geraldine Chamber Sanford from Solid Reef. And you know, I'm always here regarding our sidewalk. You know, it's just like a broken record, but it's very much needed. We need the funds. Funds need to be distributed everywhere else but on Solid Reef. 30 years has gone by, they just cannot wait another 30 years. Sidewalk, I mean, you'll be asking, it's going to be done in 2 phases, from Folly Road to the community center. So why can't we find the funds? Why the funds are not there? Why the funds are not there for the sidewalk on Solid Reef? I mean, the boat landing is at the end. I mean, the cars are speeding, the big boats. Today was a huge boat that went down. It's like, the road was not wide enough to go. But he went down there. You know, we don't walk the road anymore. Because you either end up in the ditch or in the creek. I mean, a lot of you have been down there, you see, you know. So what's the whole up? Why we can't get the funds to get the sidewalk? That's my question. Why we cannot get the funds for sidewalk? I mean, we have to know. The petitions to go through with this, we're saying the money is here, but then why can't we, the people of Solid Green, get the funds to start this project? We just got the fire hydrant. How many years you waited for that? I mean, 2 years. Locked up the entire Fulton Road and Solid Green Road. People couldn't get on the walls. So now we have the fire hydrants. We need the sidewalk. We need the funds to start the sidewalk. We have to wait another 30 years. We have to wait another 30 years. So my question is, why can't we get the money to start the sidewalk? At least the first phase of the sidewalk. That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Anyone else? All right, then we will move on. We don't have any old business, so down to new business. Mr. Representative Carden, I'll put that spot, but if you have any updates you'd like to share, I know I kind of there, but I'm the agenda this go around because I knew we remembered a few representatives were going to be on the town. That and just any updates you'd like to share with them, please.
I wish I could share some updates with you. You'll have to excuse me, I was very little prepared. I did not realize that from the meeting. As you know, we're currently out of session right now, so there really isn't much going on. We have, each of us individually as representatives have issues that we're working with our constituents in our areas that we're proposing legislation through the state house, but nothing is going to be active on until January when we return to session. So I wish I had something to tell you all, but they say we're on vacation right now. A lot of our time is taken up.
Like you said, this was your first meeting.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Thank you.
You see that no one else showed up.
They're all on vacation, but thank you for having me, and thank you for your patience with me tonight, and I will make sure I have something for you next time.
Thank you for being here, and you did. I think you're selling yourself short. I think you got a lot of money out of the state. We had our lobbyists come and tell us that a lot of calls, so I'm sure you should have part in some of those low country efforts. So, but again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Mr. Schaefer or being on public services, right? You let him do something. Okay.
I'm gonna concentrate on three major updates. So everything is infrastructure related here. We had a community meeting last night right across the road at First Baptist. We had about 160 people show up. This is the SKIP grant. So this is the federal funding that was approved in April. We've been back and forth with the Rural Infrastructure Authority. They are the entity in Columbia that are overseeing the grant funding. So that sewer expansion project is in Julian Clark neighborhood. We call it Clark's Point. You have up on the Hill Road, you have Oak Point Road, and that combined is 199 properties. And the breakout is about 168 future PSD customers, about 31 city residents that are CWS customers. And we try to present the project and to be able to get specific answers to the different neighborhoods. That's the first attempt. We sent letters, we sent a flyer to the community meeting. That'll be again, we've been able to coordinate with the city and CWS and the county. We have Waterkeeper and DHEC. We have a lot of people representing the regional solution to multi-jurisdictional problem. And so that was a good first step for community engagement. This is not going to be a fast process. We have basically the end of the fourth quarter of 2024 to the first quarter of 2025 is when we're actually going to be able to start construction. We have to get approval from the RIA to even bid the project out, meaning we have all the permits together, all of the design engineering, everything together and approved by the RIA to do that. And so all of the money has to be spent by the 1st of June, 2026. And so we will have to have all of that infrastructure installed. And the gravity system is going to be in the vast majority of those homes in the Julian Clark, the Clark's Point neighborhood. And then you have the grinder pump systems, because we can't serve those residents up on the Hill Road or Oak Point Road by a normal gravity conventional system. Those are going to be the grinder pump units. And last night we had the cutaway version of a grinder pump. And this is what, is going to be in your lawn, and explain the components and everything like that. So we tried to concentrate on what the infrastructure looks like, what the dollars look like, and get the specific groups of people to the specific stations so they could get their questions answered. Much more to come on that, but that is obviously the result of the James Island Creek Water Quality Task Force, which is the city, the town, and the county kind of working together to be able to improve the water quality levels on James Island Creek. We will continue to meet with the task force, try to get the word out that we have the federal money available. You got to sign up now. That federal money evaporates, and we want to be able to use those federal dollars and state dollars and local match funding while it's available. So that's the first update, is the sewer expansion. The second is the Harbor View Road redundant force main project. So right now, there are 2 force mains that run from James Island to Plum Island, which is the wastewater treatment plant owned and operated by CWS. And so what we're trying to do, there are 2 existing force mains, and we're trying to add a third. Ours was constructed in 1996, and this is not a gravity pipe. This is the pipe under pressure. CWS, their pipe is even older than that. So we want to have a third pipe installed under the marsh, and that would allow us to install cross connections between those third pipes. So if there is a problem with the 2 current pipes, we could divert all the flow to anyone that is operational. Also allow us to shut down our pipe from 1996 and do all the repairs and line that, so that could be brought back up to basically a new pipe. So we are on Monday at the regular commission meeting, the commission approved a debt issuance with the SRF, the state revolving fund, for $8,750,000. So that application is going to Columbia, and we will hear back from Columbia how that's going to work. We're working with CWS to be able to share in the cost of that. So just rough estimate, they would pay 4.5, we would pay 4.5, and we both get access to force main from James Island to Plum Island. So that's the second update. And then the third update is the fire station number 2. And I'm sure everybody's familiar with fire station number 2 at the corner of Harbor View and Michael Drive. And that was built in 1964. And a lot has changed on the island since 1964. And that used to be protected tomato fields in 1964. And now the very high value condominiums, homes over there that we need to provide the consistent response time to. And so we have onboarded Rosenblum Co. and Associates as the architectural, Bob George Engineering, and Jay Davis Construction as the construction manager at risk. And we are working through that process. We had to obtain approval to issue general obligation bonds, GO bonds, from Charleston County. And so that was 3 readings and 6 weeks, and that happened in June. And then there is a mandatory 60-day waiting period. So we cannot issue the first series of GO bonds until the end of August. And so the regular commission meeting is the end of August, and plan to bring the commission a general obligation bond for the first series. And what that would do is pay for land acquisition, demolition, site preparation, permitting, everything associated with getting the architectural and the design, all the soft costs, so that when we go back for the remaining GO bond issuance, that is for the physical building. And so we plan to have that in mid-construction by June of 2025. And so we will keep the Intergovernmental Council informed on how that's going and when we have a groundbreaking and as we work through that. But yeah, that right now is a single bay station. The original station didn't even have an apparatus bay, meaning you couldn't get a fire truck in there. We had to have a fire truck. We had to have a bay, an apparatus bay in the 80s, and it's tired. We're trying to go to a 2-bay fire station that will help serve the community over the next 60 years. So those are my 3 updates.
Thank you. And I know, thank you for all your hard work. I know this sewer expansion project. A lot went into that, as well as you, Mayor Katzenberg, CWS, and the board. I mean, a lot went into that. So thank you. That was incredible to see what was done last night. You guys have been working a really long time on that. So to see, and I was really surprised at the construction dates. I didn't expect it to be so soon. You know, I was expecting 26, 27, but to hear 24, early 25. So that's great. Dave, unless someone else is, can you share, because I don't have the exact numbers, can you share with us again the and I may put Ross Appel on the spot, because I know he was able to secure a lot of funds, or I can leave that to us if we want to report on some of the funds. But I know you, the SCIP grants and
Right.
all of that. I mean, if you just want to lay a little of that out, a lot of money came from the low country.
It did. So $10.3 million is what we're projecting that sewer expansion to cost. So you just divide that by 199 properties. That's nearly $52,000 per property. Is very expensive to convert from septic to the public sewer system. So then we show the components of the bill, right? And so our average bill is a little less than $67 a month. All right. So you divide $52,000 by the average bill is $67 per month, and you're talking about 64 years till we would ever break even on that project or installing the infrastructure, which that's a pretty dismal return on investment. We would never be able to get funding, borrow money to be able to do something like that. So that $8.7 million from the SCIP grant was huge. That's 85% of the project. And then you have last year, Spencer Wetmore and Leon Stavronakis and Sandy Sen and Chip Campson all helped us get $1 million earmark. So that 15% of the local match, the lion's share was that earmark from the state budget last year. The town committed $444,000. CWS committed $85,000. PSD 18,000 additional, and then we even got $100 from the water people, right? So we got a regional solution to the multi-jurisdictional problem. So everybody's going in to be able to do this, and so then just recently, thanks again to all the representatives that helped get the earmark, we got $250,000 from the state. And $50,000 of that is going to Artillery Point. That's 47 homes that CWS is helping to hook up in conjunction with our force main for the PSD. So we're going insies on that. And then $200,000 will be dedicated to hooking people up for the sewer expansion. And then the town got $1 million earmark. And that will, we're working with the town to be able to dedicate that money to hook the people up. It is extremely expensive to hook people up. We showed a figure that was just under 3,000, and that is simply the tap and impact fee, the inspection fee, deposit. I mean, it's very expensive to hook people up. And so we are trying to exhaust all of our resources to be able to minimize that financial burden onto the homeowners. And the most recent earmark, 1.2 million, very much helps out. And as you said, it's gonna be a couple years. We're gonna continue to go back to the well, the state earmarks as much as we can to be able to continue to obtain that money to minimize those costs for the homeowners.
We can name the game, kind of funny.
Now, I certainly hope that the residents of the town will not have to pay any upfront costs, and the people anyway that live in Parks Point will just pay on an average $66 a month, like 80% of people in town already do. Is that likely?
That's the $1 million question. I can't commit to any of that until we get those bids back, right? So within our estimates, we already put in a 25% construction contingency due to the fact that the state has flooded $1.4 billion into water and sewer projects, which means all the materials, everybody's trying to get materials at the same time. That's going to drive up price. Everybody's going to have be after the contractors that can actually install this infrastructure. And so that's going to drive the price up because they'll be able to pick and choose their jobs. So we're trying to get ahead of that. And that's why we've invested all of the soft costs in the engineering to get ahead of this, so we can get this out to bid as quickly as possible. And it's not 2026 until this stuff starts going. So when we get those numbers back, that's when I can put up a slide and say, this is what it costs, and these are the components, and this is what we can do for you.
So normally when you connect to the sewer line from the house, ordinarily the homeowners are responsible for that.
Correct.
Is that the plan is to pay for that, right?
Using the state earmark funds. Now, there are specific restrictions with the RIA, the federal money. We cannot use federal money to improve the private property. So connecting from the interior plumbing to the force main, we're gonna have to have the state money, the local match money to be able to do that, because there's a heightened level of federal requirements, and we have to go through a single audit, and they trace all that money from the feds to us, and it's against the regulations to be able to dedicate that money for those purposes. So that's why we're doing what we can to dedicate the state resources and the local match funding to make that happen there.
Great, thank you.
Not to beat this horse to death, because Dave has done a great job playing that, but I don't know of a better example where all of the local governments have collaborated and cooperated in this one. And I know that the city's residents that need conversion, for example, the ones on our artillery point, we also added some of our community development block grant funding and worked with Charleston Water Service, and we're able for residents that may up to 120% of the average median income for Charleston County, we were able to provide the connection at no charge to them. And I think 19 of those individuals signed on and are now going to get hooked up to sewer system for the first time. They will 30 years, long time. So, but then y'all, this is really a case model study of even though we have all these jurisdictions of us working together and cooperating. So, and Dave, thank you for your leadership. It really has made it.
You're welcome. And it's been great working with, Mark Klein and his staff to try to get all of that coordinated. Just to be able to show up and say, they got 3 easements signed last night. So we're making progress, right? It's good.
Good.
I have something, thank, and I know this has been on the television, it's been in the paper, but if you could be so kind of this to publicly, state why the sewer expansion is important and why these neighborhoods were selected to be part of it.
Sure, so, in 2019, he had named the James Island Creek as an impaired waterway. Meaning they're doing testing, the water quality levels are not good. And so that started the James Island Creek Water Quality Task Force in 2020. And so then in 2020, the main focus of the task force was to prepare a watershed management plan that had to be accepted by DHEC. So all of 2020 to the summer of 2021, Terracon is the engineering firm that put together the watershed management plan for the task force. DHEC accepted that, that report. And so once they get a report like that, they don't just put it on the shelf and let it collect dust. They name responsible parties. The responsible parties are the town of James Island, the city of Charleston and Charleston County, and they have to make improvements based on the recommendations in that report for to improve the water quality. And so that's why the task force was meeting on a quarterly basis. Okay, what are we doing? Okay, we got this report. Well, in 2021, the task force is kind of looking at each other like, how are we coming up with $10.3 million? You know, that's an extremely expensive proposition. And so that's when we started looking for grant funding. We initially, before all this money came through the SKIP program, we got turned down by the RIA for a $500,000 grant. And then we applied to DHEC's 319 program, which can pay for hooking people up. And so that grant got denied. And then we were just very lucky that the SKIP grant was awarded, and we had already been sending applications to the to Columbia stating, we got this worthy cause. We have this plan. It says one of the recommendations is to convert the septic tanks that are adjacent to the creek onto public sewer. And that's what's so expensive. And so that was the big recommendation, is how are we going to pay for that? And so that $8.7 million SKIP grant funding 85% of that 10.3 million, that's how it became a reality. And so Julian Clark and up on the Hill Road and Oak Point Road are the biggest bang for the buck to be able to, when you're running sewer, it gets very expensive very quickly when the houses are further apart. And so those are the neighborhoods where they're adjacent to the creek, and that is where we can get the most sewer for that money.
Yeah, that's right.
If I could add in a nutshell, because that's a good long explanation, but all the testing that was done as a result of this task force coming together indicates that the number one contributor to poor water quality of the creek is in fact septic tanks that are not performing properly. It's the number one cause of our water quality problem. So the more septic tanks we can convert to sewage, the better we're all going to do.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else from ESD? This Dave knocks out of the park. Now moving on, county updates. Councilwoman Honeycutt or
This is Jenny, and I don't have anything to add.
well, thank you for all your hard work.
My name is Alex Oziak from Charleston County. Just ready to give you an update on transportation projects happening here on James Island. First, our rural roads program. Most of these roadways now are in the right-of-way acquisition phase. They're beginning work on environmental permitting. For our Mudgate Highway and Woodland Shores and Beach Street project. This project is also currently in permitting. Right now, we're hoping to complete that by the end of the summer, and we'll be advertising this project for construction By the end of 2023, construction will be likely to start in early 2024. We're also coordinating this project with the Carroll Street drainage project, since most of the stormwater from this project will actually be directed to Carroll Street and pass through the golf course and out to the outfall. That project has been awarded, so it's getting ready to start construction soon. And also want to mention, we just held a public meeting on this on July 11th and was well attended. Next is our Central Park and Riverland Drive project. This project will be an 8-foot shared use path along West Riverland Drive from the intersection of Woodland Shores Road to the Low Country Senior Center. Right now, we're currently working on right-of-way plans with the plan submittal to SCDOT scheduled to occur next month. The project is scheduled to be advertised for bids in early 2024, with construction to start in the spring of 2024. Next is our Central Park drainage project. This is seeking to improve the overall drainage from about 500-acre Central Park drainage basin to help alleviate the frequent flooding. Currently, we're going through an environmental permit process, working with our regulatory agencies for the approval of a proposed muted tide gate that we're going to reach the roadway to stop water from extreme high tides from backflowing under Central Park Road. We have recently received a $3.4 million grant from the South Carolina Infrastructure Investment Program to help fund that construction effort, and we're also pursuing some additional funding opportunities as well. Next is the Camp Road and Riverland sidewalk and multi-use path. This project is currently under construction to provide the 6-foot sidewalk along the south side of Camp Road from Riverland Drive to Camp Road Middle School, as well as a 10-foot shared use path along Riverland Drive from Camp Road to the Low Country Senior Center. Portion of this sidewalk in front of the Camp Middle School is already being completed. Contractor is currently working on water line tie-ins, cross pipes, and working to complete the remaining of the sidewalk by the end of November. For the Riverland Drive multi-use path, this will have to be connected with the sidewalk and multi-use path there at Camp Riverland roundabout, and extending about 300 linear feet of 5-foot sidewalk down to Riverland crossing entrance. Right now, preliminary plans are just about completed. We're getting ready to submit this project for permitting. We anticipate having final plans ready by the end of the year. For our Holly Road bike ped improvement project, we're looking to extend existing bike ped facilities along Holly Road. Currently, we're in the right-of-way acquisition phase with only 6 out of the 50 parcels still remaining to be acquired. So we are hoping to complete those acquisitions this fall, with construction to start in early 2024. We've got a multitude of projects that all been grouped together as an SCDOT crosswalk enhancements. One of those does include the signal right here at Pauling and Fort Johnson. This project right now, 5 of the 10 crosswalks are scheduled to be completed in October. The remaining 5 crosswalks will be completed in the spring of 2024. I don't have an exact date on when this particular project will be completed by this year. For Fort Johnson and Chesapeakeville intersection, we'll be improving this intersection by providing dedicated left turn lanes. All required right-of-way has been acquired for this project. We're currently waiting an SCDOT encroachment permit before we can proceed to construction. We anticipate advertising this project for bids about the next 60 days and start construction quickly by the end of the year. Next is our Fleming Road sidewalk project. We're looking to construct about 650 linear feet of sidewalk along the east side of Fleming Road from Maybank down to Standard Way. Right now, we're wrapping up work on the right-of-way plans with the submittal to SCDOT in the next week or 2 for their review and approval. Right now, anticipate starting the process to acquire property permission this fall, again advertising for construction in early 2024. For the Pauling Road Country Club and Cloud, we're looking to construct about an 8-foot wide multi-use path along the east side of Pauling Road from Paving Street up to Country Club Drive. At that point, it's going to transition to a 5-foot concrete sidewalk along the south side of Country Club Drive, all the way out to McLeod Plantation. Currently, we're still working through the permitting process with the city of Charleston and SCDOT. Anticipate advertising that project in the fall, with construction starting before the end of 2023. For the Solar Air sidewalk, we have been That's out there trying to get donated right of way to this project. This is a CTC funded project. One of the restrictions with that program is we cannot use those funds to actually go out and purchase right away. So we do rely on donations in order to move this forward. Right now, I've been looking to see what we can do to relocate the sidewalk, either shifting it behind the ditches or in front of the ditch and perhaps piping some of that ditch. We're having some issues with funding for this project, and we're currently looking at some additional funding opportunities outside of the CTC program to fund this project, maybe either through federal grants or the transportation sales tax program. For the Camp Road and Fort Johnson intersection, reconstructing this with a small, kind of calling it an urban roundabout, very small radius. Right now, we anticipate receiving SDT approval to begin the right-of-way acquisition at the end of May. I'm sorry, not the end of July, and it should be starting the right-of-way process shortly thereafter. Some of the coordination has already taken place with some property owners out there. Current schedule has this going to construction in the spring of 2024. The Hills Bluff sidewalk phase 3. This will construct about 1,600 feet of 5-foot sidewalk along the west side of Hills Bluff Road. Our final plans are currently under review, with advertisement scheduled for the end of the year and construction starting in early 2020. For our golf course crossing and sidewalk connection right here at the municipal golf course, we'll be installing we're calling a hawk signal, which is a high intensity activated crosswalk beacon. Pretty much just an overhead signal. Traffic light will only have a red light, so when someone activates the quick button across the road, it'll put a red light on the traffic to stop. Right now, our survey collection has been completed. Design work is underway. We should have preliminary plans ready for review this fall. In resurfacing plan, we have completed all the resurfacing here on James Island with this list of streets mentioned here. And then from Rejuvenator, this has also been recently completed on James Island as well. So with that, that wraps up our presentation. If there's any questions, I think we probably heard we've got a lot of projects coming to construction the early part of next year. So certainly a lot of room.
I have a question. First, I'd like to say I was born and raised here on James Island. And I would approach this situation representing any community because I have a lot of friends on both sides of the Democrat and Republican. So I would represent all. And what I'd like to say is that all those projects that you just presented from the county, the only one project that you represented did not have funding, or you don't know when it's going to get funded. Y'all got to do better than that. You know, I've been back home over 10 years. There've been over 10 people that died in Salt Lake. And this project is maybe parallel to the 526 project. For 30 years, y'all been trying to negotiate, find funds. We have the money. Charleston County has the money. We need to produce and find the money for Salt Lake. How many people need to die and killed before y'all find money? Okay, you got a project going on Reverend Drive. Y'all found y'all got the money there. You know, Harvey Road, both sides, probably the same length as Salt Lake. Both sides have sidewalk. What is it going to take for y'all to find the money? We have taxpayers here. So what is it going to take? Why isn't the money? You, the project manager, let me know.
Say, sir, I would say money unfortunately for these programs has been very limited. We have seen
Only
so
to
that
that
cost increases on all of our existing projects, and we've had to go back to these programs and request carryover funds to fund existing projects, which is almost completely wiped out funds of any kind of funding.
And you got 20 projects that you presented.
So I think you need to talk to Councilwoman Honeycutt about this. No.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
And I do want to weigh in. I was waiting for a chance to break into this conversation. Can you guys hear me?
yes.
Yes.
I want to be very clear because I also heard Ms. Chave's comments earlier that there are residents on Sol Legree who have indicated they do not want sidewalks. So there is a bit of a disconnect between residents at one end and residents at the other end. So regardless of whether we had the funding, it also comes down to people wanting to give up the right of way, the actual road space to put a sidewalk.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, because.
Okay, continue, please, Jenny. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Honeycutt, or Councilwoman Honeycutt.
I was just saying that there is a bit of a disconnect between people that want the sidewalk on Soligree and people that do not. And so I think there's a difference of opinion. So it's been a challenge to even get to the place where we could fund an entire project when certain owners don't want to give up any right of way. But I wanted to say thank you, Herbert, for your presentation. It was very thorough. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would like to add, and actually, I'm a commissioner of, for the PSU, and I ran, because I said we need to anchor all communities together, including the city, the county, and the unincorporated. I am in the unincorporated. And my understanding, I'm looking at this, I see in permitting, under construction, preliminary phase, permits obtained, additional survey, exploring potential is the following. I am interested to see the Woodland Shores and the Riverland Drive. I go over here and I look, their setup is no different than Soligree, but they are in permitting to get the sidewalks. And Lord, I know there was an incident recently with someone fighting for their life, but we had actually death on Soligree Road. So when I hear some people don't want to, I just want to know who's responsible and who's asking who wants to on Woodland Shores and Riverland Drive. Because their setup here is a piece of grass here, there's a ditch here, and then this is people's property with milk. So if they're not willing to give it up, I hear the cost to put it on top of the ditch. We can say lines, you can't put a price on lines. So I understand that we may cannot get answers, but for the last year, so since I've been coming to the intergovernmental meeting, I've been saying the same thing. I've been asking the question, why is everyone I see in permitting, preliminary, and construction, and then here's some waiting on funds, or waiting on this, or waiting, it's like excuses after excuses. Exactly.
What does CPC funding stand for?
Charlton Transportation.
Charlton Transportation.
How much funding did they have allocated towards solid?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. I know they at least awarded an initial $100,000 to perform a study to see the feasibility of installing a sidewalk out there, and have looked to try to see if people would be willing to donate the property. As I mentioned before, due to the funding type of CPC funds with the gas tax fund, we cannot use that funds unfortunately to purchase or condemn on right of way, so we're reliant upon donations. And sometimes becomes very difficult to errors property where you can't locate all the errors.
Yeah, budget for the project.
I do not have a complete budget for the project. I believe last time we looked at it with piping the ditches and things like that, it was going to be over $1 million.
Over like, no. I apologize, we can't take, this happened, we've been meeting, sorry. Again, I don't know, countywide, but again, it sounds like CTC, they have to retain that right away. I don't know if other funding sources, but maybe that's something that can be discussed with council and then that after the meeting.
It's not that's very good.
Oh, I apologize, Councilwoman.
And it was, for many years, it was a councilwoman, Johnson.
But I do, Jenny I've sent people to Jenny, even though she's in District 9, and they were very pleased with her response. And she helps out all of us, so I really appreciate what she helped us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ronald.
I can share that there's many places on James Island that need sidewalks. Many places.
But you know what?
And actually Soligree has moved up the list to actually be on the list.
But all of them haven't had the depth that's all good back.
Well, is that a county road, DOT? It's DOT, okay, so I think we need to certainly get Councilman Boykin, our state reps, and, PSD, y'all, I mean, we need to come together on this, like you said. I think that everybody needs to have, I don't think that solution's gonna happen tonight, but I think it certainly warrants another meeting. And we need to make sure that Councilman Boykin, you know, I know it's tough, he lives on John Island, but he represents a part of us as well, and I know that this would concern him as well, so we just have to continue to make the point. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I can't speak for everyone, but that seems like a path forward.
We definitely need a path forward and that's, and we need to solidify it. So,
Yeah.
you know, and then stop making excuses, so that's all it is.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know who answered the question. How long has it been before Riverland and Woodland Shores? How long have they been seeking sidewalks? Who can answer that question? Long time ago.
Main thing with Woodland Shores, it's a cut through and there's heavy traffic, whereas is a dead end street. I know you get a lot of traffic everywhere, it's traffic, but you've got this constant traffic along Woodland Shores and those other areas. I think the whole list, Solar Green is a dead end street.
So the Woodland Shore project came out of the Central Park, Riverland Drive, Central Park, Riverland Drive, project. And that was basically nixed. And the money that was supposed to go to traffic circle at, Riverland and Central Park is being utilized to build a sidewalk from Central Park down, from Woodland Shores down to the senior center.
Who can, I guess, answer?
And then that decision was made, I believe, by county council some time ago. Now, Woodland Shores, I'm not sure exactly when that much is about. It's all getting out of the town jurisdiction, so, but I've been going to these meetings for many years and these things have been reported at the meetings.
I guess what's the status with Central Park and Riverland Drive? That's a bad situation. Is it going to be a roundabout or are you thinking about a light there? I don't think anytime you make a left or right, you're taking a chance.
I think that's a right of way situation.
Because there was issues with right of way and the people who own the property didn't want to give up the right of way. That the majority of county council voted against making the traffic circle. I think contrary to what at least the county council recommended. And so then they used the money that was left over to build this multi-use path along Riverland Drive. But the plan to have a multi-use path along Riverland Drive actually is longstanding. And there was community meetings and a proposal to build a multi-use path. We didn't have any money for that.
Okay.
So
Did you gain right away? I mean, you needed right away on those projects as well?
No, because most of those projects get also CTC funded projects, so if they did donate their right of way, a lot of times we had to go back and kind of shrink the section on Woodland Shores. Instead of providing a continuous 8-foot long, 8-foot wide path all the way up the road, we had to shrink it down to 4-foot section because we couldn't get the property from the owners.
Yeah, so it sounds similar. I mean, at least it's a good model. I understand and hear your concerns, but I think we need Councilmember Boykin to get in the room with y'all and and do that. And hopefully, I mean, let's make that an action item for our October meeting, that hopefully y'all have made some progress and we can come back here.
Yes, I would greatly appreciate it if you would make an action.
Okay.
So that we can get a positive response from Joe and the county.
Absolutely.
You like a positive
I'm
response.
sure it sounds like, I think there might just be, there's some easement, gaining that right of way, is a hurdle, so I'm sure we'll do it.
we don't really have action items. I mean, we can have a resolution in support of building the sidewalk on Solid Green, which I suspect will get unanimous support for. But we don't have any money, we have no authority, we got to make this happen. We have to get order. Councilman Boykin, and I'm sure Councilman Boykin supports it.
Oh, yeah.
It's like that, he's just one member of county council.
And you're right,
And-
I'm pretty important, so, but you know what I mean. I
No, we
think
can
that
make a resolution.
we can work with
believe
your
that
opinion.
It can be done just like all the other communities. When you all the other stuff you just said, you can throw it out the window. We can make it happen.
That's right. We will, again, he's saving,
Yeah.
you know, we, are very informal here, but we'll get us all together. Thank you. But thank you for your update. So many exciting things coming. I hate following the county because we steal my. So much time. But it's all good, because all good things are coming to James Island. Traffic safety, I mean, huge improvements. So thank you, Councilwoman Honeycutt. It's gonna be a major improvement to the island and everybody's looking forward to it. All right, on to city.
You're welcome.
On to city updates, Mr. Mayor, I will happily go first, or I will let you go first. I'm sure you have a lot more exciting things. Yeah.
I know a few things that have come under my nose recently, and one is that our portion of drainage improvements for the Central Park Drive Road corridor, or planning and design is underway by AECom. The city did allocate $5 million from our drainage fund to be able to not only design it, but to build it. So design and permitting takes a little time, but it is finally underway. So that's good news. Speaking of sidewalks, the city has built a little sidewalk on Houghton Drive that will go from Fleming Road and go by the Maybank Tennis Center and connect the neighborhood safely with the tennis center there. So that's in the final approvals with our own TRC, but is funded and should be built later this year. We had a request, I think it came to you as well, probably on your list, to add a crosswalk at Seaside Plantation Drive and Stonebridge Way. Apparently there's a student pickup there, and we approved the funding. That was within my authority, but didn't have to go to council, and we're going to be adding that crosswalk soon. And this is a long-standing request. Finally, we have a cooperative developer on the backside of the Harris Theater on Valley Road. We're going to have a little pedestrian bridge back there that connects the shopping center with the neighborhood. Things on school. Right there.
That's at Ross. That's Ross's district.
Okay.
Cross Street.
Yeah, it's across street. So we'll have a public easement so that you can go from the sidewalk on Cross Street, go across this development, and then have a pedestrian bridge that will connect with the backside of the Harris Theater shopping center over there. So that's going to be a nice little addition. So those are a few things coming on the night. We've got some more.
Yeah, and Councilmember Appel, I think you just stole your thunder, but did you have anything else to add?
Thank you, Chairman Parker, and the mayor did cover a lot of good ground. I'll just maybe touch on a few things that we've got going on over in my part of James Island. You know, we're working hard on, we got a lot of park activity going on. So we're working with a group of, very passionate people over in Riverland Terrace to completely upgrade Plymouth Park there over by the Wapoo Cut. The city's allocated some substantial funds, and the idea is to have that matched with private donations that are in the process of being accumulated to really take that park to the next level. We've got another great example of collaboration between the different agencies. We acquired the Bradham tract over on Riverland Drive. This is like right between Maybank and the county park, which is going to be great green space over on James Island. And there's actually, it was entitled for development. So those are developed, homes and cars that are going to be taken off the board over there. And we're going to get a park instead. And then, of course, we've got Fort Pemberton plugging along. We've recently allocated some funds for a study to sort of put together some ideas for a pretty passive park there on the water. And these are all waterfront parks, each of those three that I just rattled off. And we've got various stormwater projects, transportation, minor improvements, all throughout that part of James Island. We're doing some great work over in the country club, trying to make that area safer. The country club's expanded and a lot more people are on that road, and given the families and everybody over there, we're doing what we can to incorporate traffic calming, things like that. And Central Park, I'm glad the mayor mentioned that, when we were rattling off all the different grants that we've been receiving from the state. Charleston County got about $3.5 million, if I'm not mistaken, for Central Park. So between that funding, the funding that the mayor mentioned from the city, we're going to really be making some progress over there, which I know is long overdue. And the folks over in that part of James Island are, going to be happy with the work that we do over there. In fact, I think a group of us are going to be there next Friday morning to sort of walk the neighborhood with all the different agencies and make sure we're doing everything that we can. That's as we know, a notorious multi-jurisdictional area over there. So it really takes close collaboration for us to get things done, but we're working on it and making things happen. And a lot of positive things I've heard tonight. This is a very encouraging, situation out on James Island. A lot of funding, a lot of very exciting progress on the way. So all good stuff, and we'll keep working together as a team. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Councilmember Bell. I'll run down my quick list, but we just have a few. So as far as I know, we heard a little about Rethink Valley Road, but our traffic committee just reported, we're working on some grant funding along with the BCD COG to go after. We need to complete, y'all have already probably been here, done that with Rethink Valley Phase 1, but now we have to keep going, right? So we have to complete the safety action plan for the roads, as far as citywide, but that will hopefully, in conjunction with the COG and the county, once that action plan is completed, then we're able to pursue the SS4A, the federal grants, which is, money that we can get to use for these projects. So it's really important. We're really hoping that we get that grant. I believe the city has to match, but as long as we get it, I think we're going to move forward with that. But the COG's on board too. I've been very, very vocal in saying we need your support on Valley Road. With that, we want to make that a priority, as well as with SCDOT. This is a major thoroughway. I mean, everybody uses it to get to Valley, so I really want to continue to keep highlighting it with DOT and the and the city. But so we're working on that. I got a few requests recently for some Secessionville speed calming. It's DOT, so not necessarily city, but we're going to keep working on it because I don't know if everyone else has noticed, but we certainly have picked up on the island. There's just a lot more traffic. A lot of our smaller roads have become these big, fast speedways now. So I think I'm going to spend a little more time on that as I received a lot of requests. As you know, I can't remember if we did it before our last meeting, but the city passed, we already had some pretty strict stormwater regulations, but we did pass some additional building regulations. So that was pretty big, pretty major. I did get a request to have some of that, Ms. Milliken requested that maybe be on our agenda. I was maybe shooting for October to have that because I know a lot of folks would like to see that. Some might like to see it in the county or the town, some of those. We'll try to do a presentation on what we've implemented at our October meeting. Del Morris is absolutely sensational from our water team, so he's always happy to share what we've done and how we can improve. So let's see, moving on to, well, let me just say, police and fire, as some of you may know, we lost a wonderful man, a dear friend of the mayor, our Chief Reynolds. So please say a prayer for him and his family. The mayor did appoint an interim police chief, deputy chief, will now interim chief, Cheeto Walker. Wonderful man, and he's gonna lead our city successfully, I believe. So say a prayer for him and his family too as he takes on this new role. let's see, so parks, we have a big, we had some, as I think Ross mentioned with his section, but over on Harborview, they're going to paint and reline the Harborview Fort Johnson tennis courts. I am hoping to copy the Riverland Park plan that that the city and the Charleston Parks Conservancy has been working on over at Riverland Terrace. I'm hoping that we can copy that over at Stephen Washington. I know Stephen Washington could use a lot of love and there are people that want to help do that. So we're going to continue to do that. As you know, most of the calls and things I hear about are parks and recreation, which will kind of lead us to we just passed at our last meeting, our bond referendum, our parks and recreation bond referendum, which is pretty exciting for James Island. I mean, this is citywide, but it's a $70 million bond that will be on the ballot in November. And we've listed in our ordinance a few projects. They all come from the city's Parks and Recreation Master Plan. But these are all projects that need funding. So obviously, you know, I could really, you know, as James Island, we all work together. And I know some of y'all can't vote for this referendum, but spread the word, because I know that your constituents all utilize our parks and our recreation programs. So this is a really important bond to pass to get the dollars into our parks and recreation system. Much needed, you know, added infrastructure, and then we'll keep plugging along on other items. So, yeah, go ahead.
You mean we're having an election this fall?
We are. So it's the town. So this is a big year, right? Yeah.
Actually, Stephen Washington, one of the first people on the island, first years ago, it was baseball games all the time. I haven't seen a baseball game. And it's like ways to say, if we're not gonna play baseball, let's do something else with it. Or maybe the city organized team.
Well, I'll be completely honest with you. I mean, here's our problem, and the mayor and I talk about this. I mean, we know, we are short-staffed. I mean, I beg and plead to get those ball fields drugged and maintained and improved. I mean, we need it. I mean, we have beautiful ball fields. We have a beautiful park. We have a beautiful park and ball field in Ferguson Village, Stephen Washington, Westchester, and the James Island Recreation Center. It's not necessarily for a lack of space or funding sometimes. It's just staffing those and getting those parks maintained and those ball fields drugged and making them playable. But I am working really hard. I worked in the spring to try to get those lined and ready because, again, one of the things I hear the most about is we have our recreation numbers have skyrocketed. You've seen the growth here, so skyrocketed. We have everybody's place where we had, I mean, in the spring, I think we had almost 16 teams in every age division. I mean, that's huge, right? I mean, the city supports the entire island as far as recreation goes. So we are working closely with our Parks and Recreation to get those fields better maintained and to spread it out so that everyone's not practicing at the recreation.
Playing baseball.
Yeah, they do. I mean,
they use the playground and now I see dogs toss to dogs, but I haven't seen any of them.
yeah, and that we're trying to change that. It really does come down to.
They are.
Yeah, we just aren't scheduling what I received from the recreation department is they don't schedule practices there or games because one, there aren't lights and there is a bathroom, which is what this bond referendum is for. Okay, so that's one of the reasons. But other than that, it's just maintaining the field, and I'm advocating hard to get because we have plenty of kids that we just need to schedule them and get them on the roster and get them on the schedule. It's not for lack of kids wanting to play golf. It's just having the park, you know. We just need to draw a line to that. I'm advocating Parker. We're going to have those fields. You're going to drive by it hopefully every season. You're going to have team after team after team. But yes, the bathroom issue, the lights, those are issues. But Let's see, so stormwater, we had some actual ditch cleaning crews out there just this week, working on Secessionville area, which is great, and we're gonna continue to get some more ditches added to the maintenance, role. Shoreham Road and Willow Walk, I think I talked about that before, but a lot has continued to be done, those backyard ditches are being dug out. So we're hoping that, let's hope that we don't have to see another situation that happened last time. But the city has done a lot of work in there, clearing out those ditches, digging behind those rear yards. We also recently, if you want to drive by on Shoreham Road, one of the buyouts, they created a rain garden of sorts. So it's just another way to put water for that community. And it's just a really great thing, but it's really great for the community. They've also done some things like that out in West Ashley, but it's a great, starting point or to show what we can do in some of those areas. So we have that going on. Environmental services, we just purchased new trucks, and I mean, we are on time and rolling. So that's been a really, with all of our staffing issues, our crews and teams are really successful out there, doing wonderful. We have such an amazing crew, and especially in this hot weather, but we've been on time and rolling. And that is, I think, council member Temple. I'm not sure. Is it a council member? Trustee Temple. I'll scoot back to recreation real quick, but I always have one thing that we need on the island is basketball courts. So I'm a little early in saying it, but our winter league, CCFD and the city can collaborate at all. That is certainly just like the baseball field, the basketball courts are definitely needed on basketball season. So I'd appreciate your support on that one, but yeah, anyone will let us use, Lori or will take, but that's it. Yeah, so just our bond record, that's a big one for Kings Island. Let's get that passed and get some money back to the island. So that's all I have from the city. Thank you. All right, moving on.
No questions?
No, any questions? Go ahead.
Okay, so actually, I'm gonna.
Go ahead, Tom.
Mark, I listened to the Public Works Director in the presentation on some drainage projects that we are in the process of doing or they're going to start working.
Yes, since I'm last up this evening, I will be as brief as possible. Preface everything. There's a cheat sheet in the back that briefs on all of these projects I'm going to mention. If you have any other questions, I'm always available. Okay, see if I can get it where
Is the one a little higher up
More
on the screen?
that one.
Yeah.
Oh,
It might already be open. Click the little red P at the bottom.
at the bottom.
red key.
At the bottom.
The-
There you go. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Stone Coast Drainage Project is the first of our drainage projects I'm going to discuss. It is ongoing. You can see from the picture, that's when they were putting in one of the first cross-lining pipes underneath Stone Coast Road. This project is starting here. This is the downstream side. It goes across a bunch of vacant lots all the way to Ocean View, then up Ocean View to Fort Johnson, and then takes in a couple of city neighborhoods that are over there. That's the water effect. Until we get this done, all that water kind of stops in those vacant lots and trickles out. So that's what this is supposed to do. be taken care of. Project started in the spring of this year and scheduled to be completed by the end of this year. Yeah, Thomas and Hutton are the project engineers. As I mentioned, it was poorly drained vacant lot. Landscape pavers are the contractor. Next, we have the Green Hill Honey Hill Drainage Project, and this is just the first piece of the plan to show where the project starts. It starts at Seaside Lane by the high school, runs behind Green Hill, then runs behind Williams Road and through the Honey Hill area, where it then outfalls right down the street here at Hill Bluff Road and our boardwalk. This has traditionally been an area that floods, especially around the end of Williams Road, because everything upstream of that stops there. There's a 100-foot disconnect with no ditch at all, so the water stops at the end of Williams Road, and after a good rain, it grows a lot across. Project's been being worked on since 2015. We had to get 33 easements. A lot of them were in the heirs property. Stantec is the engineering firm. Integrity Contracting Solutions is the contractor. They're starting the 1st of August, and they have a completion date December 31st. And they tell me they're going to finish way before that. Quail Run Drainage Project. Quail Run, as you may know, is right over here. Was built in the 1970s, and their infrastructure is failing, mostly rusted out with metal pipes. Stantec is the engineering. There's going to be 3 phases to this: cleaning some of the pipes, replacing some of the pipes, and relining other pipes. Here you can see a slip lining project we did on another part of the island. That's what the slip lining looks like. Highwood Circle Drainage Project. This is an area. Upper end of it is actually Joe Rivers Road and that area, and it goes back behind the houses on Highwood Circle. And when we had a 1,000-year flood a few years ago, some of you will remember, we had an absolutely huge sinkhole developed in this guy's backyard. We have right away through to this. There's actually 2 metal drainage pipes at 2 different elevations that were running through there. One of them failed out, what we say catastrophically, and there was a 20-foot sinkhole. Yeah, that took a while to repair. So we're going to replace all that pipe. Anything that's metal pipe is going to get changed to concrete. It's an older neighborhood, so it's catastrophic failures. Stantec engineering firm is again the ones who designed this. ITW Construction Group is the contractor. They're going to start this fall and complete by spring of 2024. Camp Road Centerville drainage study. We're doing some drainage studies that are really going to help out, I think, a lot of areas. This was brought about because neighbors on Bradford and Chandler behind the American Legion were complaining about flooding, and DOT kept saying, "Oh, the water's supposed to go this way." Well, we observed where the water was actually going, and it was going across Folly Road. So it's no, the water goes the other direction. So that's the headwaters of this entire system. We have hired Thomas and Hutton Engineering to study the whole system to tell us what improvements we need to make, what can be maintenance, what can be capital improvements, what needs to be changed out immediately. In the picture, you can see that big, huge metal pipe on the right. That's actually big enough that you could walk through, and that goes all the way through Bishop Gadsden. Luckily, they've already surveyed it and inspected it. There's only a few areas that are bad, and it's mostly good, but I can't imagine what would happen in that community if that pipe failed. And I've seen it where we've had rains and it's been filled to the top. And then we've got the James Island Creek Basin study. This is not to be confused with the James Island Creek TMDL watershed. This is a sub-watershed that was identified by Thomas and Hutton several years ago by the island-wide drainage study the county, city, and town participated in. This is the #1 basin that was having problems and was deemed to be most critical to get an in-depth study on. We have gotten some funding through the South Carolina Office of Resiliency,
and have secured the services of WK Dixon Engineering. And they're supposed to start next month on gathering some data. First public meeting on this will be Wednesday, August 16th from 5 to 7 right here at Town Hall. There will be a charrette style, and people can go around and point, have a big problem here, not so much over here. They're gathering data right now, and then again, they're going to be telling us these are maintenance issues you can get right away. These other ones are kind of big. Those are going to be capital projects. Sidewalk projects, one of which you've already heard, the Dills Bluff sidewalk phase 3, which continues the Dills Bluff sidewalk around the curve. And then the Regatta Road sidewalk, which picks up where the Grand Concourse sidewalk stops at Stillwater and goes down Regatta all the way to Neighbors. And this will be a centerpiece of a longer project that will eventually connect over to Quail and the rec center. And it will connect really two major areas of the island. Questions? Hey. Yes.
The study that the city and us, we see that I apologize, I do not remember.
Oh, yeah, the Camp Road, Centerville, yeah. We have an MOA with that, and it's a joint project. We have over 50% of the properties in there. The city has less for we're all not share. We share all the information.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because water doesn't know jurisdictions.
Nope.
All right.
We can't push it over the time.
No.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. No. Okay. Well, that's about it, unless any, no, yes, please.
Well, let me report from the school board.
Oh, I apologize. I'll put that on.
Well, we have a new superintendent, Dr. Eric Ryan, and he's aware of this group and he's very eager to meet people out in the community. So be alert that at some point, I'm sure he'll want to arrange for something. That's a good thing. And we are working diligently in our budgets to find support for financial support for our teachers. It's our hope that teachers can live in communities where they meet and where they can continue and survive in our communities. So that's a big plus this year. That's it.
I think, well, always, anytime you want to add, I know this is a pared down agenda, but you wanted to, that was up the next meeting, I'm sure that would be.
What you want press forward, I can always do. How our children are doing, because how our children are doing is very important to our whole community.
Actually, two questions. So the development, did y'all ever decide on the development of the early childhood development center on? Yeah, sorry.
Where we are with that is, the district has hired an architect and they're in the process of looking at options, like one option could be building another elementary school, one could be the early childhood center, one could be rearranging things at the schools so that maybe there could be early childhood centers at the schools. James Island Elementary is fine. South Point is busting out the team. Harbor View is its own facility is limited by its size, but anyway, so we're going to be looking at a variety of things, and there will be meetings for the community to weigh in on what do we want? Do we want our neighborhood schools to have early childhood through 5th grade, or do we want a centralized early childhood center on Camp Road where everyone has to drive to the area and that kind of thing? Yeah. Or do we need another elementary school that needs out because the population is growing? So those present, challenges and they're looking at.
So they're still figuring out. Okay. My last question, just because it comes up a bit in our city council meetings, is the CCSD properties collaborating with the city. I think I mentioned it to you at a previous meeting, but we are I mean, I can't speak for my mayor, but I think we are all, I mean, you all have already always collaborated with CCSD, but as far as affordable housing in some of those locations, and when I found out that CCSD, I probably have mine like James Island Elementary, but we are ready and willing to have those conversations. I think it came up the other night, right? Just collaborating with the school districts. Like, please keep us in your thoughts on that.
No, I mean, I haven't heard anything, nothing has surfaced to the board level about that interest or whatever. I mean, I have mentioned it, but I haven't seen anything, you know, any proposals. The city's been working on it, haven't seen any proposals that are coming before the board that we would have to make a decision.
We've been asking their staff for some time, for some years. And I believe the district has finally identified 2 properties that they would like to try to move forward with some affordable housing. One was in North Charleston near Cottrell Avenue, and the other was, I think, in Ravenel. So I don't know if that's come to y'all's attention. If we could just start with 1 or 2 kind of pilot projects just to show that we could do this and utilize school district property to provide affordable housing for teachers, it just makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, sounds like a really great opportunity for
So,
collaboration.
Madam Chair, I know we're about to adjourn, but if I may, Mayor Woolsey made a comment earlier when the topic was up about the sidewalk on Solid Creek, and we're just an advisory group here. We don't have a budget, we don't approve funding. But I think you made the comment that if we made a motion, it would be unanimous, and everyone said we'll get together. But I'd like to ask that we have a motion of this group that we ask all the jurisdictions involved to find a way to find the funding for that sidewalk on Solid Creek Road. Why not? And put it on the left. Put it on the right. Bring it down in all the jurisdictions that we maybe to find out. Can I make that motion?
Yes, you can. I think. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
And I said.
yeah, that was the plan. So yes.
That's greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
That way, the record, the minutes will reflect what this group.
Absolutely. Yeah, all in favor? What anything else? Our next.
Ask if any more questions.
I don't.
So the record will show it was unanimous.
All right, our next.
Yeah, and if I would add, we're not opposed to actually having smaller shrinkage, because he stated that will ensure like some where they did not get the property owners permission, where they went from 8 to 4. So we're not opposed to having shrinkage as well.
And again, you know that this body.
I know, I'm just.
Right.
Right.
But I do think that that is where this conversation, I think. Yeah. It's a good question.
I just wanted to, we're gonna use state park in Fort Knox Road. I'm curious if it's appropriate or a good idea to have a state park, Southland State Park, right? To us, on what's coming.
Love it. I'm obsessed with that new state park. I'm so excited about it. It's gonna be, it's so exciting that that's going to be on James Island. There's so much history there. So please, I'll be happy to set it up unless you have a contact. Okay, I will certainly put that on the list, and so we may have a packed October meeting, so just get ready, all right? All right, well, if there isn't any other business, our next meeting will be October 25th. And I mean, adjourned. Okay. Thanks, everyone.